The spears should have killed her already. 8 of them, tips gleaming with sharpened Crin steel, all aimed at her throat. Lyra Vale knelt in crimson mud, cradling something small and broken against her chest. The hunting party had found her at dawn, and for an hour, she'd felt their judgment pressing down like doubled gravity. "Step away from the cub, human." Reketh's voice rumbled through his translator, claws gleaming in morning light. But Lyra didn't move. Her tears fell into matted fur as tiny lungs struggled for one more breath. The question hung between them like smoke. Why would a human die for this? "You killed Tovik," another hunter snarled, stepping forward. "You killed an alpha son." Lyra's voice cracked. "No, I found him like this. The razor wings were still feeding when I scared them off." She shifted, revealing deep gashes across the cub's torso. Tovik couldn't have been more than 6 seasons old, his eyes half closed, breathing wet and labored. "Lies," Reketh spat, but uncertainty crept into his tone. Humans were known across the galaxy for many things: their persistence, their pack bonding, their disturbing survival instincts. But they weren't known for killing cubs. Even the Crin's worst enemies didn't stoop to that. "Look at my hands." Lyra held up one palm, the other cradling Tovik's head. Her fingers were torn and bloody. Defensive wounds, marks of razor wing beaks. "I fought them off. I've been carrying him for 3 hours, trying to reach your settlement." The human colony lay in the opposite direction. They all knew this. Reketh's spear lowered an inch. "Why?" His question carried genuine confusion. "Because he's a child," Lyra whispered. "When I found him, he looked at me and he was scared. He didn't understand the pain. He kept calling for his mother." The hunters recognized grief when they saw it. This was genuine. "The venom is already in his blood," a younger hunter said quietly. "Razor wing venom." Even sprinting back to the settlement wouldn't save him. They all understood. Tovik was dead. He just hadn't stopped breathing yet. Lyra nodded slowly, looking down at the small broken creature in her arms. The cub's eyes opened slightly, focusing on her face with the dim confusion of the dying. "I know," she whispered. "I know, little one." Her voice trembled. She'd carried him, knowing this moment would come, knowing she couldn't save him. But she couldn't let him die alone in the mud, terrified and calling for a mother who'd never hear him. What happened next would be retold in Crin halls for generations. Lyra bent her head and pressed her lips to Tovik's forehead. A human gesture of farewell, of love. She held the position, tears falling into his fur, then began to hum. A wordless melody rose and fell, reaching something deeper than language. A lullaby, though the hunters didn't know the word. Tovik's breathing slowed. His small body relaxed. The fear left his eyes, replaced by something like peace. Then, gently, he was gone. The sound from Lyra's throat echoed off canyon walls. A keening wail, raw and primal. She rocked back and forth, clutching his body, grief transcending species. One by one, the spears dropped. Reketh was first, his weapon thudding into the mud. Then another and another, until 8 spears lay abandoned and 8 hunters stood with heads bowed. In Crin culture, there were protocols for death, rites, and rituals. But there was something older, the recognition of shared grief, of a warrior who tried and failed to save the young. Lyra wasn't a parent, wasn't even Crin, but she'd become something they understood. Back. Raketh approached slowly, claws retracted, kneeling beside her. "Give him to me," he said softly. "I will carry him home to his mother. You have done enough." "I'm sorry," Lyra choked out, looking up with red, swollen eyes. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save him." Raketh placed one massive paw on her shoulder. "You gave him comfort in his last moments. You fought the razor wings. You carried him for hours. You sang him into the next hunt." He paused. "This makes you Den Mother. This makes you Crin friend." The other hunters rumbled their agreement, a sound of respect. Lyra carefully placed Tovik into Raketh's arms. The tiny body looked smaller against the hunter's broad chest. "I want to come with you," she said, voice shaking. "I need to tell his mother I tried." They arrived as the twin suns set, casting crimson across stone dens. Tovik's mother, Sirana, emerged with murder in her eyes, until Raketh spoke in the old tongue, the sacred language of Den Mothers. He described everything: the razor wings, the hours Lyra carried her dying son, the song that gave him peace. Sirana approached, and instead of attacking, pressed her forehead to Lyra's. "The highest Crin honor. You held my son when I could not," she whispered. "You are blood back." Later, investigating the attack site, hunters discovered claw marks, suggesting deliberate sabotage. Razor wings don't hunt this far south. Someone had driven them there. The Voran faction wanted war. The Council of Alphas convened. Lyra stood before hundreds, no longer an outsider but Den Mother, a role granting voice in back matters. She proposed a joint human-Crin task force to expose the Voran conspiracy and prevent the war they'd engineered. Skeptical elders remembered her holding Tovik, remembered her grief. If a human could love a Crin cub enough to risk everything, perhaps trust was possible. The vote passed. Sirana volunteered to lead the Crin contingent. "Anyone who gave my son peace deserves my spear at their side," she declared. An unprecedented alliance was born, not from diplomacy or treaties, but from one moment of compassion that shattered centuries of mistrust. Weeks later, joint forces had dismantled 3 Voran cells, preventing catastrophe. Lyra stood at Tovik's memorial cairn, stones carved with 2 words in both languages. "Back transcends." Raketh approached, revealing the council's offer: permanent Den Mother status, an honor never given to outsiders. She could stay or leave, but she'd always have a home. Lyra touched the cairn, remembering small weight in her arms, dying eyes. The moment everything changed, she accepted. As human Crin teams departed for joint missions across the sector, a transmission arrived from Terran Command, asking how she'd accomplished the impossible. Her response: "I just loved someone when they needed it most." What would you have done in her place? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more stories where humanity's heart becomes its greatest web.